Welcome to Never Been Cool. Each episode selects one cool design or media technology trend that is popularly tied to the digital era and traces that trend back in time as far as we can go. I am your host, Dr. Alex Bevan, lecturer at the School of Design at Massey University, Wellington, New Zealand. And today's topic is ironic facial hair. So
I
either
it on just being beards.
No,
So I hope that's okay with all our guests.
Just don't think that we think your beard is ironic facial.
It's a great beard.
well, this is the thing, is that some of us have facial hair, some of us do not. We've all seen facial hair, ironic and otherwise, correct? Like hipster mustaches with waxed tips.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a part of our it's a part of youth culture right now. So you're not.
Or at least it was like a couple of years ago, and we haven't found out
Now
that
it's
it's no longer
mainstream.
cool.
Yeah.
We
Well,
wouldn't know because we're too old.
Yeah.
the title has never been cool. So I have no claims to being cool.
Yeah.
So I'm in the clear. So I'm just going to go around and introduce everyone. So I'm Alex Bevan. I'm the co-host. I am joined by my lovely better half, Luc Miknaitis. Do you want to say something about why you're here?
You made me.
Yes, that is true. I did. Luc is a special ed teacher in Wellington, and we are joined today by my co-host Kate, Holly, and Sam. Kate, you've been here since the first episode. What do you do at Massey?
I have. Thanks so much for having me. So I'm a media developer at Massey, which is a good time.
Yeah, and you make objects for kind of learning.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
facilitating.
And I'm really sad that you're leaving, Alex.
I know. I'm sorry. This is Kate's last episode with me because I'm moving to Australia. And
Really sad news.
Wait, we are?
yeah.
No, she said.
No, just me.
Alex is moving to Australia.
She's leaving you.
Yeah.
And this is how she's announcing
it, right?
Live podcast.
The first ever podcast divorce.
So sad.
So Holly and Sam, what do you do in Wellington?
I am the general manager of Havana Bar and Restaurant.
Which is an amazing.
Yeah, so
Amazing
I'm
bar.
a hospo for lifer,
Yeah.
and I like to play football and apparently garden.
Sometimes.
Slash is a total babe and the love of my life.
Aww.
Stop it.
That's awesome. What
Sam,
do
your
you do, Sam?
I am a software engineer at Flux Federation, and I, in a past life, was a musician and DJ and just general complete muppet.
Scumbag.
Yeah, scumbag muppet.
You say scumbag, I say great guy.
Well, it's all a matter of translation, really. Kate.
Or interpretation or experience.
So we should add that both of the men today have good beards. What are
I'm jealous of Sam, to be honest.
I happen to know he
much
was born with
denser, darker. I beat him in scraggliness, but
how long have you had a beard, Sam?
How old are you? I think is a better question because then we know. Then we know how long you've had.
We would accept a range.
Yeah.
Since you met me.
Yeah, well, not necessarily. I think, probably I've had a beard full time for maybe 4 or 5 years. Prior to that, had went from levels of clean shavenness to scraggliness, and that was just kind of a cycle over many years. I was quite a early bloomer in terms of facial hair.
And what made you decide to grow a beard, or did it just happen?
It was me, because when he shaves, because of the whole rashy,
The abrasion.
thank you. Yeah. So when we first met and he would shave for a night out or whatnot, it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
So
okay.
and I think for him as well, like it was something that it was.
That discomfort's not exclusive to Holly either. Like, I definitely, when I shave, it's really uncomfortable, and my skin goes bananas, and it's kind of just a bit of torture for like 2 or 3 weeks until it grows to.
And it goes
a
back within
reasonable-
like half an hour. So
Yeah,
what's
no
the
shit,
fucking
bro.
point,
Yeah,
really?
What's the point? Fuck it.
So Luke, do you talk to your beard when I'm not around?
what the fuck kind of question is that? No.
Stick it in.
Do you have a relation? Do you guys have relationships with your facial hair?
No.
That was a hesitant / positive noise from Sam, which
No,
indicates that
no,
perhaps
not at
yes, he
all.
does.
Do you? have relationships with the hair on your bodies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? Okay, that's fucking weird, but yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
I don't have a relationship with it. I think I comment on it because quite often I've got very long curly hair and I only wash it. I don't wash it very often. It's just
Yeah.
because it's fine for it to be like that. But when I do wash it, I have to brush it first, and it's a bitch. So I do converse with my hair at that stage. I'm like, fuck, you bastard! It's so naughty. It's like a rat's nest.
I don't know
But
that
apart
that's
from that-
conversing. That sounds like abuse.
Yeah.
So the reason why I chose this is because I needed something that was fashion based. I needed a cool object that had to do with fashion. And I did see a growing number of ironic mustaches around, I don't know, a couple years ago. And so I decided, well, how long has facial hair been ironic? Like, I mean, and by ironic, I mean guys who sport a very long waxed tip mustache or very luscious beard, purposely knowing that it's also a little bit antiquated or a little bit uncool or presumptuous. Does that make sense?
Not entirely, because I think actually like beards in and of themselves are just
Lazy.
they take some work.
Yeah.
I've got some beard oil. I've got some accoutrement that I use for my beard, but it's not I don't do it ironically. I do it because like I'm trying to hide the fact that I have a disappearing chin with age.
Same.
But you know what I mean by an ironic mustache, right? Like guys
An
who have
attention seeker.
an attention seeker. Like this is some scraggly like lip spinach that is just not sexy, but I'm doing it because it's a look.
Do you think it's a process of trying to like construct a personality where there's a particular lack of one?
I think that's
I have the opposite point to that because Sam and I talk about hipsters a lot because he's quite disdainful of hipsters, but I think
Despite being one.
yes, well, we've had that conversation also. That for some young men, it's hard to find their identity, and they find some kind of safety in being extreme in their facial hair, but therefore safe because they're still fitting into a very particular look, I suppose. And as a woman, we all have kind of different styles that make us feel safe and comfortable or beautiful, and we go with those, and that's acceptable. But I think for men, it's a little bit more difficult to have your own style or to have something that can be different or interesting. And I don't think anything's original anymore. So, Sam would laugh and say, but they're all part of the same bloody pack. But I mean, aren't we all part of some kind of pack when it comes to our look? Look or want to.
You only have so many things to kind of play with fashion wise as a dude. I feel like you have a limited palette to work with. Like you're gonna do suspenders or a bow tie or a tie or socks. Like a crazy sock day.
Yeah.
Can I just add at this point, I'm a huge fan of moustaches, and I have been since like 2010.
That's amazing.
Do you have a favorite mustache?
That is
Are you a Tom
question.
Selleck sort of girl, or
Yeah, just the straight up plain old moustache. I'm a fan.
Tom Selleck.
Yeah, I started liking it ironically because I was like, that's stupid. I like it because it's stupid. And then it became this big thing. I was like, oh, do I still like it? And just here today, I'd like to confirm that yes, I do.
So the answer to this, I'm not going to presume to offer an answer. I'm more going to set
tell us? Why is
the
Doctor?
trend of
Dr. Moustache.
oh gross. That just no.
Dr. Mustache definitely operates out of a van.
No.
There are no windows and the license plate is removable.
Yeah.
I'm leaving you in New Zealand. It's decided. I call it digging through the rabbit hole of history. Like the rabbit hole we're going to dig today touches on a variety of things in answer to the origins of the ironic hipster mustache. So the first theme is like the ties between facial hair and military. The second is political symbolism of facial hair, which has a good, strong history. And secondly, and most obviously, connotations between of facial hair having to do with masculinity and sexual virility. So all of this research is like from primary sources from historical, lots of primary sources from historical newspapers going back into the 1800s. But there are a few histories of facial hair done by like legit like fashion scholars or facial hair historians.
Who are not people who have too much time on their hands.
And they pointed me in the direction of ancient times. So in Roman times, the Romans generally preferred a clean shave because beards were associated with the barbarians. So all the kind of colonial territories were the hairy men. And the Vikings were very closely associated with beards and a lack of hygiene, even though through archaeological digs of burial grounds, it turns out the Vikings had extremely fastidious hygiene habits because they were buried with a wealth of grooming tools and beard picks. So they might have beard picks, like a pick for your, like got to get that chicken bone out of that mow, man. Dong, dong, dong. So the beard went in and out of fashion in ancient Rome. And it took on a lot of sort of generational meaning. So fathers would sport beards and their sons would be like, fuck that, dad, shaving. And then the sons would have sons and those sons would be like, fuck that, dad, I'm growing a beard. So it kind of flip-flopped a little bit. Going to medieval times, medieval people liked the beards because, and we know this because armors for knights started to be designed to accommodate the beards and the mustaches. And let me show you this image.
I can't wait to see this cod piece for a beard.
Holy moly.
Theodoric of Italy.
Right.
One hell of a haircut.
What is that?
That's mean.
Can you describe what you're seeing, Sam?
What can I? It looks. Okay, first thing.
It's a spaghetti
his
hat.
eyes look like someone's just jammed their thumb in his butt, and he's a little bit surprised at it.
Yeah.
But not displeased.
Like he's got a little smile on, so he's okay with it. Maybe they asked permission.
guys.
That's true.
I think he's got a bowl cut.
It is the bowl cut,
Yeah.
but it's a little curly at the ends, and it's kind of
Just
been,
curl the ends of the bowl cut.
Yeah.
It turns it into something entirely different.
It's been smooth.
And it's very high, like above his head. Like it's kind of like there's a rabbit under it or something.
Half beehive.
He's got a cone head.
It's kind of a
little
beehive.
bit. It's a little. So the medieval armor that would accommodate beards might include something like this. This was a 14th century Edward Lord Despencer, Prince of Wales, aka the Black Prince. And he has statues and portraiture showing long flowing stashes poking out over armor. Would you wear this mustache, Luke?
Absolutely not.
Can you describe what you're seeing?
I'm seeing something that someone who looks like a 70s porn star.
Yes, I didn't even know what we were looking at. But
Do you think he would be called Lord Dispenser?
Wow. Yeah. Get out.
So I'm staring at this and looking at the chainmail surrounding the face and wondering how that mustache didn't just get like constantly caught in chainmail and pulled and tugged. This is like the least functional armor imaginable, I would imagine.
So it must be ornamental. I mean, this must be a ceremony. This
Rich
must
people
be.
didn't do the fighting? What?
Okay, fair enough.
Next, you're gonna tell me they don't pay enough in taxes. That's
All very good points. So next stop is 16th century medieval Ireland, which was forcibly occupied by England. The fashion was to have a stash. You'd have a stash if you were Irish. You'd have a yellow saffron dyed tunic and a kind of reverse mullet called a coulon.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. Get it.
Holy
which is
shit.
just shaved in the back and
Yeah, I
long
see
in
this, yeah.
front.
Oh, that is
There's
so
a couple
good.
dudes in Newtown who have their haircut.
This is
Yeah.
a thing now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a thing.
yeah.
Well, there was a thing when I was a kid
And
as well.
when they're walking,
Yeah,
it
like
was all
just the fringe.
as
flicking
big
their head
as
to the
a
side,
fringe as
flicking
you
their
could
fringe
get
out of their
and
face.
shave all the rest of it. It was the opposite of the mullet.
I think they could totally pass for a hipster today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the political context for this particular look was when the British settlers invaders came to Ireland, like all processes of colonization and assimilation, they started to pick up on some Irish trends, which apparently landed them in a bit of trouble because colonists were killing each other after having misidentified each other as Irish by wearing mustaches. So Britain responded by banning the mustache in Irish colonies in 1523 just for British colonists so that they could easily identify each other and not kill each other.
They didn't think to like
Safety.
introduce themselves, and just as soon as they said that wasn't part of the.
You're familiar with the process of colonization, right?
I'm familiar with the process of colonization in the context of New Zealand. Where you just walk in
Well,
and kill
you guys
everyone.
were a little evil. That's kind
Or,
of
no, sorry, you try and kill everyone, and then the
Yeah.
Irish fuck you up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, I see a Mo on that hill, yo. Let's shoot him. Shoot him down. I don't think there were many
I
questions
like the
involved.
combination of yo with
Yo
your
and Mo.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought that's exactly how they talked.
So
It probably is.
entirely historically accurate.
So that the mustache began to be a sign of political resistance if you were an Irish person who was defending your land. So fast forward to 1800s Europe. The mustache began to have military symbolism. So in Spain, it was legally restricted to the army. You could only wear a mustache if you were in the army. And in Britain, it wasn't legally restricted, but it was seen as taboo if you had a stash and weren't in the army.
Why? What was the reasoning behind?
I will tell you.
Oh, it's almost like you've researched this.
So it's like,
But it'd be more fun if we just made up reasons.
so the reasons why military men allegedly had mustaches is that the mustache was said to hide facial expressions so you'd be more fearsome in battle. You wouldn't even know if someone was talking.
That's
Oh,
true.
well, that's really true because I've seen a lot of imagery around generals in the army. I don't know why that having those very big mustaches that went over their
It's a thing. It's
at
a
least
military
their top,
thing.
Yeah, their top lips.
So it's meant to hide your. So if you're like your lip is quivering and you're crying on the battlefield, it's okay. No one would know.
Wouldn't the tears coming out of your eyes be a little bit of a giveaway?
Could be allergies.
Yeah. It's like it's me and my cat
be
in
cats
battle.
I'm allergic to the battle cats. Ignore the urine on my pants. I'm not afraid.
One example of this association between military men and mustaches is during Napoleon's defeat at Waterloo. What happened to all those French soldiers who fought for Napoleon during Waterloo? They had nowhere to go. When Napoleon was defeated in France, they were like, where do we go? So they went to the States, because States and France, we have some good ties. So all those French soldiers with stashes went back to the States. And no one in the States had stashes at that point. So being a French soldier that was, ex-Napoleon military, you were easily identifiable in this environment. And I found this comment, an article in the Launceston Advertiser dated 1835, by a reporter who interviewed a group of ex-military Frenchmen in Philadelphia. Who were waxing nostalgic for their good old Napoleonic days. And he kind of pokes fun at them. He says that one of the colonels is drawing little Napoleons on his napkin as he's talking. And he says...
Size Napoleons.
This is the reporter says, with tears in his eyes and rubbing down his mustachios. I cannot, General... These I wore at Jena, Marengo, Otterleti. Amputate my limb, but suffer my mustachios to remain where they are.
It's some commitment to the facial hair.
Yeah. So they're very wedded to, because the reporter was like, hey, you're in America now. Let's shave that hairy lip, man. And they were like, no. You can have my thumb instead.
To match all of the thumbless Americans.
It's like an extreme game of would you rather, and like definitely the wrong decision. Like,
Yeah.
that is. There's usually no wrong answer, but that is 100% the wrong answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that is the extent of these guys' attachment to their facial hair. Patriotic attachment to their facial hair.
Is there a modern day equivalent to this?
Wouldn't there be a level of parallel with things like navy tattoos
Oh, there you go.
ish?
Yeah,
Though
absolutely.
it's not as, they're obviously more permanent. So there's a temporal nature to moustaches. You can easily shave them off and grow them back. It's kind of a flip flop, switch it on, switch it off. Whereas maybe see something like navy tattoos as being more permanent and like it's a commitment. You're committed. You've marked yourself as such, and there is no other than covering up.
But is it all about having a tribe in that time of your life and in that moment?
Yeah, harder.
Identifying with a particular tribe that makes you feel safe or confident, or whatever it is that those people were feeling. But we like to be like other people to make ourselves feel safe. So
can
whether
see
it be
parallels
tattoos or
with,
mustaches.
like surfers, long hair. That's the classic kind of, when I was growing up and started surfing, I grew my hair out and got my ears pierced because that was the standard. I mean, ear piercing's not exactly a permanent thing, neither is growing a hair, but it was being part of tribe or being part of the crew. And all of my friends had long hair. And that's mirrored in the Frenchman's comments or in the sentiment of what he said, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather have something cut off than shave a moustache because I feel like this is a deep and intrinsic link with something that frames the last few years of my life.
Yeah.
And now I'm removed from my homeland and there's only a few of us in the country. And now I want to keep my moustache. And so
I thought this guy was kind of silly and I was laughing at him, and now you're making me feel like I feel for this French dude hundreds of years ago.
Post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah, this friend. Oh, now I feel like a total bad person for making fun of him. Yeah. Okay, so
Auntie bad vibes in the corner here.
So the next stop in the military history and political kind of symbolism of the beard is the 1820s in Hungary, where the mustache starts to shift from a sign of being a military man to a sign of being a revolutionary, a political revolutionary, to the extent that by 1849, it was illegal to wear a mustache and you could be subjected to forcible shavings in the street if you were, if you were cut
So wait,
with
if
a
you
mow.
couldn't afford a razor, you could just game the system
Yeah.
and sort yourself out and save
Yeah.
cash.
I don't think it was a pleasant forcible shaving.
Is there
I don't.
anything-
What did they use to
is it
shave?
pleasurable forcible shaving? Does that exist?
I mean, I'm just gonna guess that like a cop isn't necessarily as good with a straight razor as a barber.
Yeah. I'm gonna venture to say that you wouldn't want this kind of gang forcible shaving. What would your reaction be if someone tried to forcibly shave you in the street?
I would be very, very alarmed and worried. That would be an interesting fight. Are we talking electric clippers? Are we talking straight razor?
It'd have to be a straight razor in the 1820s, right?
Well,
1849.
Alex asked if it was
49.
me, so I'm trying to make this a modern thing. If they're
I think electric clippers are funnier, so let's go with that.
okay.
If someone came at you with electric clippers and be like, "Gotta shave your mo, bro,"
This is like the weirdest like.
Wasn't there a guy doing that on social media, going around and shaving off people's top knots or something?
No, he was cutting them. He had a set of
Oh.
hairdresser scissors, and he'd sneak up behind people and snip
Oh
their
my
top knots
gosh,
off.
Alex, that face, like the face on you just now was just of utter like distress.
Well, because I'm thinking of what that would mean in New Zealand context.
It would take you so long to grow it.
Well, but like in terms of like hair being tapu, Like that could be
Right.
some
I think it wasn't
serious
in
shit
New
there.
Zealand. I don't think.
No,
Okay.
it was in the States. You're right though. You'd want to be really
If you
careful
did it
doing
here,
that kind of stuff.
it would be really bad.
There's a lot of Māori kids.
Yeah.
So I came up in athletics with a dude called Hemi, and he hadn't cut his hair since, I want to say since birth. So we knew each other from the age of 7 till like 16, and he had hair almost down to his butt.
Yeah.
That it was a cultural thing from his parents where he wasn't allowed to cut
the
it.
top nut is like a cultural
Yeah.
hair is sacred, and that's what tapu means. Is it's sacred. It is kind of should not be touched.
I just like I'm not just that, but also like going around and cutting off someone's hair because the aesthetics of it bother you is like
Horrible.
just a supremely shitty thing to do
So
to someone.
shit.
Like fuck you.
It's assault, right?
Like yeah, it is.
Like you're essentially cutting someone's body with scissors.
I like the chances of
This
this
out.
person being a men's rights activist probably super high, right?
Can we draw a parallel? So the case study we're talking about now, it's law, right? So if we think about nowadays, I was like, oh, I'm going to outlaw moustaches. But then if you think of like Muslim countries where women are not allowed to show skin, and like how do we feel about that? Like I feel like it takes on a more modern day.
You have to be careful when you start to contextualize Islam in those ways, because yes, maybe in Saudi, certainly there are laws against women being exposed. However, there are a lot of Muslim women who find parts of the Quran that detail what they should or shouldn't do, and they believe that.
For sure,
you know,
for sure. And I
they
guess,
make
and I
that
guess,
choice.
no, you're right. And thank you for clarifying that, because I definitely was thinking more of Saudi,
where it's imposed.
But thank you for bringing that up, because that definitely needs to be established for sure.
A lot of Muslim women wear a burqa or wear a shayla because
By choice and with joy.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%,
For sure.
100%.
And there's some contexts, like in France, where you're not allowed to wear a hijab in
Right.
public institutions and universities, and then there have been instances of people grabbing hijab off women. So,
Which, like, in the same way that thinking about someone forcibly shaving facial hair, like, it feels similarly uncomfortable. Like, I definitely would not want to live in a society where that was unacceptable or lawful.
well, so okay, this is the point at which the mustache begins to be a sign of political resistance, and like you are a radical lefty if you wear a mustache in 1820s and 40s Europe. So yeah, the Hungarians were at this stage where the Habsburgs were, Habsburg Empire extended all the way from Turkey to Italy at one point. It was huge. And the Habsburgs were in charge, and there were some Hungarians who were anti-monarchists, and they wanted to kind of establish more of a republic and not a monarchy, because the monarchy kind of sucks. So to kind of just show
Take on the anti-monarchy.
I think it's important these days to just kind of be very clear that, like, I'm not a Nazi, don't support Nazism. I'm an American, but not a Nazi. You can't take anything for granted these days, right?
I suppose.
Okay, so not a monarchist, pretty bad. So the Magyar movement, the Magyars were the lefty radicals who wanted to kind of liberate Hungary, and they wore a lot of stashes. And that's why you get people like Karl Marx and Engels and political radicals of the
Che
time.
Guevara, Fidel Castro.
All of them, there's a tradition of like left-wing anti-monarchist. Karl had a big beard, and it was a sign that you were an
What kind
political
eyes?
radical.
Right?
And that his
Handsome man.
moustache is black, but his beard and...
It's hard to say that he's handsome though, Kate, because realistically you can only see his eyes.
Look
and
at his
nose,
eyes,
like-
though.
True.
They're handsome
That's it.
eyes.
You're most seeing his
Like-
forehead, which
Yeah,
that
It's
dude's-
a good
that
forehead.
dude's
Come
far
on,
with some
you
face
guys.
right
that's
there.
a 5 head.
It's like yours, Sam.
That dude's running real fast, right? Everything's kind of sliding off the back.
I don't
of
know,
it.
you guys. I just think he's really handsome.
We've discovered Kate's little kind of 1848 crush here on Karl Marx.
Ironic facial hair and Karl Marx.
So this is this point in time which wearing there is a kind of a historical connection, I'm arguing, between mustache and resistance, an act of resistance that I think
Good connection.
might be carried through to today. The Victorian beard and mustache movement, which that is its official name. It was the Victorian beard and mustache movement in Europe, Australia, and New Zealand. The Victorians were quite explicit about having a mustache and beard making you a man. And it's in this particular mustache growing movement that I start to see the beginnings of ironic and comic framings of beard and mustache growth. So I started digging around in old newspapers for mentions of mustache and particular tongue-in-cheek kind of arguments for wearing a mustache and beard. And I found them in newspapers, radical newspapers, so left-leaning newspapers, like The Leader, The Northern Star, and cartoons in Punch magazine around 1850 and 1890. The beard and mustache movement was not popular among all the ladies. Some women were not very happy with the trend of growing your face hairs out. As the comical perspective of one woman in an 1854 issue of the Otago Witness, so this is New Zealand, a New Zealand lady expressing distaste for the Victorian era beard and mustache movement, and she writes her protest in the form of a poem that I will read you. Take those lips away. Sorry, let me try again. I know it sounded a little bit. Take those lips away. Rough with air, all fringed with grease. Strive no more to kiss me, pray. Naught but distance can me please. Nearness fills me still with fear, while you look, oh, so like a bear. Shave, then shave that nasty beard. Touch me not with it what it smears. As with dust I see it charged. Hateful snuff incites my fear. Freely will I speak my mind. Worst it is when you have dined.
So true.
Whatever.
You're pretty fastidious with that stuff, so I'm...
The unfortunate part of this association in the Victorian era was that it did begin to be associated with men's rights. So kind of situating it in gender kind of discussions. Women were kind of writing into newspapers being like, this is disgusting. I hate the beard and mustache movement. Gross, gross, gross. And men were being like, oh, be a man, be a radical lefty with us, be a man. And unfortunately, this specifically within the Charterist movement in the UK, which was like 1830s, like anti-monarchy movement of also asserting your right to vote as a man who was not landed gentry, also overlapped with asserting your right to vote as a man who is not a woman. So the landed gentry and all those Muppets who are kind of like have, smooth hands and smooth faces are just like kind of women. All of those people should not vote. So if you want to vote, be a rough man, have a beard.
Is that what you mean when you're talking about them? Isn't that just normal life? Like men have the right to do whatever the fuck they want?
No,
Is there a movement?
At various points in history, men have sort of had these pro-masculinist movements.
That's to an extent that's happening now, though. It does seem that there's a common theme here, or at least I'm getting a sense of a certain kind of theme within all of this. Is there's an association with a masculinity, but a kind of gross masculinity. So that it's kind of fighters, armies,
Yep.
revolutionaries,
Yep.
people who resist,
Right.
people who keep So that has an implication. The militaristic side of it is people who fight back against those who want different stuff, and there's there's parallels there with keeping the women downtrodden. Like you don't need to vote, you don't need a voice because you're not that important. Your opinions aren't valuable. We don't need you. You can just cook for us and clean our clothes, and we can have our moustaches and our beards, and it's a little bit gross. I want to go and shave now.
There is a little bit of a gross history here. I mean, okay, so here's what one switch to the other part of the ocean, stateside. Americans weren't wearing anything on their upper lips or their chins or anything else. They were clothes, but they were not wearing any facial hair. So they found all of this very fucking funny. And they found all these fucking Brits coming over here for vacation with their fucking mustaches. Like, what a fucking bunch of dicks. So in America, the mustache and the beard is kind of framed as being stupid and comical. And you get a lot of vaudeville houses making fun of men with mustaches.
What's a vaudeville house?
So a vaudeville house is like, oh man, how to describe it? It's like before cinemas, you had like a variety show. And you'd go to, it's a kind of a lower middle class thing to do, but for a night out of entertainment, you go to a kind of a theater, and they'd give you a variety show. You'd get like a song and dance number, a magic number. You'd get a comedian. You'd get a woman. You'd get a titty show, and then you'd get a guy, kind of who could, I don't know, psychic.
Good old variety show.
Give you a good old tap dance now. And you get the cane out, and they pull bad numbers out, and people throw tomato, that kind of thing. So there's a plethora of like American-based songs, vaudeville songs, making fun of men with mustaches who are thought to be, I don't know, duplicitous, sexually kind of duplicitous, because it's associated with the Charterist movement in the England of men being like, I have designs on you, my dear. So, I have a song.
Good.
That I'm not going to sing.
Oh.
What?
No, I'm not going to sing it. It's a song in 1864, New York. It's a song I found at the Library of Congress by New York H. Waters on piano, and by lyrics by Stephen Collins Foster and George Cooper. It's called If You've Only Got a Mustache.
And you must sing it for us, please.
Give it a crack.
There's a ukulele right over there.
Oh no. Dude, I have like no idea. I didn't practice.
Just give it a whirl.
Okay.
Like
No judgment.
Edit it out if it doesn't happen.
First of all, I don't know what song this goes
That's
to.
fine.
Second of all, I haven't practiced this.
Also fine.
Okay. Again, historical context. Americans, the Brits, who are sporting these mustaches, they're making fun of them because they think they're these lady killers, these men rights activists of the Victorian era. Those fucking British dicks. And the song is ironically saying, "Oh, guys, if you want to get some pussy, you gotta grow a mo."
Sorry. If you want to get some
pussy.
Okay, that's good. I just wanted to clarify.
Relive.
Clarify that.
You can relive it so many times.
Is it
when this
okay
comes
if
out.
I
You can just
reuse
rewind
that
and play.
phrase?
Oh, all you single men, don't ever give up in despair, for there's always a chance while there's life to capture the hearts of the fair. No matter what may be your age, you'll always cut a fine dash. You will suit all the girls to a hair if you've only got a mustache. A mustache, if you've only got a mustache. How's that?
Oh my god.
Oh, there's another verse. I'm looking at the
I'm disappointed it's over. Come on.
No way.
God damn it.
trying to weasel out of this.
Magical.
Tease.
Holding your feet to the fire on this one.
Having so much fucking fun.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
Your head may be as thick as a block and empty as a football. Oh,
You're so close.
oh, your eyes may be as green as the grass. Your heart just as hard as a wall. They weren't very good at syllable distribution.
Rhyming's the
That's
kind of
fine.
Yeah. Your heart just as hard as a wall, yet take the advice I give.
You just
You'll
turned into
soon
Tom Waits.
gain affection and cash, and will be all the rage with the girls if you'll only get a mustache, a mustache, a mustache. If you'll only get a mustache.
Must. Oh.
I feel like that could be the outro for the episode.
What does having a heart as hard as a wall mean?
Manly.
They follow the rhyming dictionary.
I think what they're saying is that they're saying this guy's a real Don Juan. So my verdict is that this is an ironic framing of the mustache, correct? 1860s. I can trace ironic facial hair back in time to the mid 1800s. That is what I think. In terms of like its histories signaling resistance, that goes way back further in time to like Irish people,
Right.
Irish hipsters, and
Right.
you know, trying to fight the Brits off. What do you guys think men are resisting today? If beard and mustache growth
Love.
is
That was a joke. I love that. That was
Intimacy.
definitely-
Girlfriends. The loss of virginity.
what's going on? I
counter to the norm. Like
Yeah,
it's not.
that's definitely that.
What do I think they're resisting?
It's the
Society.
Now in this century, like definitely specifically the 2000s, we've become more and more painfully aware that our social norms are grody, and
What do you mean by Grady?
the things that normal humans do are a little bit kind of strange and gross,
Right.
and it is now somewhat of there's social status attached to resisting those norms and being something different than the average button-down businessman or a lawyer guy. You know, it's like, oh, I'm not a lawyer. I have a funny moustache and I make I knit my own macrame underpants for
Very uncomfortable.
underprivileged kittens, and that's what I do for my job, my day
Kind.
job. But I've got a side hustle making coffee out of recycled fucking spectacles or something, you know.
you have such disdain.
Mate, the hit to disdain is strong in this one.
But I think it's the fact that a lot of it's kind of arbitrary.
I completely disagree with you. I believe that
I know.
men
I
are
live with
in a box. Generally speaking, they don't have much to work with. They're, especially in this society, they get born into a society where, you know, being a football playing, beer drinking bloke
He's wearing
is what you're expected to be. So I don't blame them for breaking out. I don't blame them for trying new things. And yeah, we might think that it's contrived to have a curly mustache, but they're breaking away from what the norm is for their whole lives. So for me, I think that, yeah, we might look at it and go, you look like all your mates. Stop being a douchebag. But for them, it's breaking away from the little box that they've kind of grown up in little small town New Zealand. And yeah, we're in Wellington, but let's, you know, I'll be honest, it's a small town.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a beautiful thing, because we should all be allowed to try to express ourselves, and nothing's original these days. So, you know, it's impossible to express your own individuality because, let's be honest, we're always copying someone else.
as someone who's very volatile when it comes to hairstyles, like I change my hair every 2 months.
I think you changed it since the beginning of this podcast.
Yeah, like, and this strikes a lot of people as kind of odd. I'm like, why can't you kind of indulge in styles, at a whim? Like, why are we supposed to kind of have a set style starting at 20 and stay that way for the rest of our lives and just don khakis and like a polo shirt at a certain point in time? Like, that's kind of sad, man.
I buzzed out when I went to the States and I found out that wasn't just like a hilarious characterization from a movie.
It's a real thing.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
But
Dockers
Sam,
and
you've had
polos.
pretty much the same style for a while now, right? Like, you found something that suits you, and that's the way you dress. And you buy black t-shirts and nice jeans, and you're a bit obsessed with shoes, and you always look tidy, and that's how you want to represent yourself to the world. But for some people, they like to change their hair every couple of months, or they like to try out some weird facial hair.
If you had to indulge or flirt with the forbidden fruit of some fashion trend, which one? What would you toy with?
That's a great question.
Just for if no one was looking, it was just you alone in a room, and you had the chance to try something on.
It's a really hard question to answer.
Because I think
100%.
guys, people are hard. They expect men, I think, to have a consistent style starting at a certain age, more so than women. I think women are given more leeway in terms of, I'm trying this out. Guys are expected to be pretty stable as a sign of manliness. So I think that's kind of shit.
I agree, and I think that judgment of people that do try lots of different things out is shit as well. Because can you imagine? I mean, I experiment with my style quite a bit. I wear quite, not today, but generally quite bright, colourful things, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I'm sure that some people look at me and think, what the fuck is you wearing that for? But screw them, I can do what I want. It's the same with men with bad facial hair.
There's lots of tropes, right? Like, every generation has its tropes, or every subset of society has their tropes, and those things are reasonably common. It's really, really common. Like, I'm trying to think, if you were to take it down. Alright, so I'm from Christchurch, and Christchurch is a real rugby, racing and beer city, and it's in terms of the subsets of the male population in Christchurch, there's a bunch of tropes there that are just really, really common, and people stick with that shit right through life because it identifies them and it qualifies them as a human within that particular context, and they feel strongly about it.
Like what? Like what kind of trends?
There'll be someone from Christchurch who'll listen to this and they'll fucking hate me for saying this, but it's true, so shut up. Christchurch Boys High School. So when I say that, I can see the atypical, archetypal Christchurch Boys High School guy with his knitted sweater and his collar up and a pair of moccasins, and he speaks in a particular way, he interacts with people in a particular way, he interacts with women in a particular way. There's a certain toxic masculinity associated with everything he does. It's all about rugby. We're off down the pub to sink a few jars while the ladies stay at home and cook us dinner, and we'll lay a couple of bets on the TAB and watch the rugger drive home half shit faced. And it's all right, mate. Fuck, she'll be right, mate. You're fucking out on the farm, and sheep and fucking cows and stuff. It's all that kind of very toxic New Zealand masculinity.
It sounds very suffocating.
Yeah, well, I imagine it's to an extent it's freeing for them because they feel like they belong, which is to an extent related to what we're talking about. Like, it's that kind of you spoke about accoutrement in terms of your beard, and I guess they're piling on social accoutrement to feel that they are part of a thing, and that makes them feel safe, and it gives them a context to frame their own personalities, and it's kind of, they don't feel challenged and they don't feel threatened in that environment. And I guess maybe that's part of that sort of protection of that. I feel like Kate's going to cut me down there or something.
No, not at all. I was just going to ask what sort of ironic facial hair those guys have, because I've got
Chops.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
oh
massive
my
chops.
gosh, absolutely. That is the ironic facial hair.
Yeah, that is the ironic. You'll often, so there'll be
What's chops?
Mutton chops.
big sideburn mutton chops.
Disgusting.
Or, so you'll have a couple of different ones. You'll have the big ass chops, or you'll have the guy who plays like semi-professional rugby and he just has the munger of a beard. It's not manicured. That's
That's
clean.
new now. That's
It's
a
not-
new one,
It's
right?
not,
That's
no,
relatively
not necessarily.
recent.
Like it's the big I'm a massive lumberjack dude kind of look, or you'll have the odd ironic stash, but we're talking the slug. No, not the
Very
handlebar,
heavy.
The slug.
Very heavy and unmanicured.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
there's no
Unmanicured seems to be the theme here.
There's
It
no
is, it
finesse there. It's just like painted,
100%.
like, massive big fat slug, big dirty.
This is coming from, like, I grew up in Dunedin, so I can
so
picture
you've
your
been
pals.
around the exact same tropes. Yeah, you've seen the.
Hey, this is maybe unrelated, but I went through about 2 years of Facebook posts to find it.
Do it.
Because I had a feeling it might be relevant, but I have a feeling it's now not relevant. But I read this quote in a book a couple of years ago, which was, "The source of all these differences is that the savage lives within himself, while social man lives constantly outside himself and only knows how to live in the opinion of others," which was a quote from 1755. And I just like fell off my chair. I was like, oh my God, I think that I live in the opinion of others and I need to be a savage.
Yeah.
Wow.
And facial hair.
Yeah.
That's
Just tying it
you
back
need to
in.
be social here. Social here. Oh, Freudian slip maybe.
I thought it was quite beautiful.
Isn't it? Oh man,
quite
I
touching.
literally fell off my chair.
Yeah, to live in the opinion of others. That's sad.
But it's life these
Yeah, that
days.
is life. Yeah.